We thank you for joining us for KVUE's special 2024 election night coverage.
And here in Texas, the polls just closed at 7 o'clock, and people who were already in line by 7, they will still be able to vote.
So throughout the night, we're going to have team coverage bringing you the results as they come in, as well as some expert analysis. Isabella Basco monitoring polling places as they collect those final ballots tonight. Adam Bennett is joining us from Houston tonight. He's at Senator Ted Cruz's watch party. Senator Cruz's Democratic challenger is Congressman Colin Elred. He's in Dallas, and that's where Darenisha Heron is for us covering the Allred campaign tonight. It's going to be a great night ahead for everyone watching KVUE Plus and KVUE tonight.
Indeed it is. Before we get to those reports from all over our great state, we're going to show you how we're going to be tracking results tonight with our Vote Texas screen.
It's got all the information we could ever want, Ashley. Why don't you do the honors and take us to the first page, which is the race everybody wants to watch tonight, the race for president, of course, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the early vote. You can see some of the early votes already in for Dallas County and just north of Dallas County. So we're seeing some early numbers in here. And we'll, as this updates throughout the night, the Associated Press will give us the numbers. We'll bring them to you right here on our map.
Yeah, and of course, I think people are seeing this and they're already into the numbers that we're seeing. Notice this is 8% reporting, and this is not coming as a surprise to us to see a major county, Dallas, with Harris winning in this. This is what you're going to see. It's indicative of what you're going to see throughout the state of Texas. In fact, Brian, if we take back a look to 2020, you can see that those major cities are where the Democrat will carry. However, Texas was red, right, in 2020. And if we go back to 2024, you can see that same trend is already happening so far. But again, very early in the night.
Some other races we're going to watch, too. Let's just touch a couple of these to give people an idea. Colin Allred, the race for Senator Ted Cruz's seat. We just showed you we've got teams at both of these campaigns tonight. Colin Allred in the early vote in North Texas. You can see Dallas County and just north of Dallas County showing some significant support for the Democrat tonight. But again, we'll watch this as they roll in tonight.
Now, the other races that we're following, obviously, are the congressional districts in our area. We do not have those early voting total numbers in yet, but we're going to be looking at a couple of district races. District 10, which is held by Congressman Michael McCall, 17, which is held by Congressman Pete Sessions.
That's right. District 21, Chip Roy's district. He's got a challenger, Kristen Hook, there tonight. We're going to watch all of these congressional districts. Michael McLeod, another incumbent. We expect the incumbents to have a strong showing tonight in a lot of these congressional districts, including this one with Congressman John Carter. He's had that seat for a few years now. He looks to keep that seat as well. And we've also got some state races, in addition to Greg Casar's district, some state races, Ashley, that we're going to be watching tonight as well.
Absolutely. So we're going to be watching the big state races in our area, and all of them are pretty much what you would, sort of expect to see on our list of races that we're watching is the big races in our area. We're not looking at the uncontested races. So you're not going to see the race for, State Representative Cheryl Cole or Donna Howard. Those races we're not going to follow for you tonight. Quita will have that information for you, but they're uncontested races. So we really want to focus on the races that are going to be a little bit tighter. And obviously the big one I think that's going to be close to watch is for District 52, Brian.
That's right. Caroline Harris Davila now. She ran in 2022 with a different opponent and, of course, a different last name. She has since gotten married. Davila is her last name now, but Caroline Harris trying to hold on to that seat. You can see how big that district is. A lot of Williamson County showing up there, including, Ashley, as you mentioned earlier, the city of Hutto, which seems to be growing by the day, which Absolutely. Can sometimes shift the vote in that specific area.
So this is really interesting, and I want to go back in time a little bit for you when we talk about this race, and that's because you remember that District 52 was historically red. The district then flipped to blue with State Representative James Tallarico because what we saw was a lot of people leaving Austin going into Williamson County. That district was redrawn. Tallarico was drawn out. We know that he went on to run from his hometown, so he's in Austin now. So this is the district that we're left with, but it still contains significant parts of Round Rock as well as Hutto. So it's going to be interesting to see this race and how it plays out tonight.
Big statewide race. In fact, the biggest statewide race is the race for the U.S. Senate seat from Texas. Senator Ted Cruz, of course, holds that seat currently. Our own Adam Bennett has made the drive down to Houston to check out the watch party for the senator tonight. How's it going out there, Adam? It looks like the crowd's still filtering in there behind you.
Brian, things are really starting to heat up a bit here. Yeah, just about 4 minutes ago, they opened the doors to the general public. We're seeing them starting to stream in. They're maybe going to the buffet to grab some food, heading over to the bar to grab a drink. We're here inside the ballroom of a pretty swanky hotel in downtown Houston. If you've been here before, you may know it is the one with the Texas-shaped lazy river on the roof. And people all over Texas are watching this race very closely because Democrats are hoping to win their first statewide race in 30 years. And actually, really, people all over the country are watching this. We have national media on these risers next to me. Democrats are hoping to keep control of the U.S. Senate, and they say this race could play a key part in that. Money has been pouring in from all over the country. In fact, this is the most expensive U.S. Senate race this year, with more than $160 million race between the two candidates. Polls showing a very tight race between Senator Cruz and his challenger, Democratic Congressman Colin Allred, many of them within the margin of error. You may remember that Cruz won a narrow re-election 6 years ago, beating Beto O'Rourke by less than 3 points. Now, over his 12 years in the Senate, Cruz has, of course, been very outspoken conservative. He's got the endorsement of Donald Trump when the former president made a trip here to Austin a couple weeks ago, and his voting largely aligns with that. But in recent months, as we've seen that polling be very, very close, we've noticed Cruz going through a kind of a moderate rebrand. He's been, during the debates and on his website, touting his bipartisan bills with Democrats on things like expanding interstate highway designations, also the fast-tracking 4 new bridges between Texas and Mexico to increase trade and commerce there. But he's been on the defensive about an issue that's important to many Democrats and many independents, and that is abortion. During the debate recently, he ducked a lot of questions about where he stands on exceptions for the abortion ban. So he has really been trying to be on the defensive there, but also go on the offense against his opponent, Colin Allred, using the slogan, "Keep Texas, Texas." But just to kind of wrap here, the tour bus that we've seen crisscrossing the state on his campaign stops, that's now parked outside. So we should be expecting to see the senator sometime shortly, and we're expecting to see him make a speech on the stage behind me. I'll send it back to you, Quita.
All right, Adam, thank you so much. And let's go to KVUE's Darrenisha Heron. She joins us now from Congressman Colin Allred's watch party that is happening out in Dallas. That Democrat trying to unseat Senator Ted Cruz. And Darrenisha, what are you seeing at that watch party tonight?
Hey, Quita, the doors here at Longhorn Ballroom just opened up for Colin Allred's watch party. I'm going to try to step aside. They're really tight here, but I want to show you all what's happening here. Sorry, let me get out of the way. You can see that supporters, the doors just opened, but supporters are already rolling in here. Allred's campaign said that we shouldn't expect him to be here until much later on, but we will hear from him regardless of what the results are. And just like Adam said, here in Dallas, media from all over is here because not only are people in the state watching this race closely, but the nation. We know that Democrats want to flip this seat so that they can maintain the majority in the Senate. The polls are now closed. You know, the numbers are starting to roll in. So here in Dallas, I'm going to be watching those numbers. I know back at the station, you guys are going to be watching closely. And so as people are rolling in, I'm going to try to talk to some people and check back in with you guys to let you know how his supporters are feeling about how everything is going on. Quita, back to you.
All right, it'll definitely get busier out there later on in the evening. Darrenisha, thank you so much. Now let's go to KVUE's Isabella Basco. And Isabella is at a polling place in downtown Austin where people, I'm sure, may still be in line. Isabella?
That's right, Quita. At 6:58 p.m., we saw one woman rushing in to make her place in line to cast that ballot, because if you're in line by 7 o'clock, you can be able to make your voice heard and vote. So we saw people rushing in and still waiting to make their voices heard for this election. Now, according to some numbers that we got from Travis County, more than 480,000 people have cast their ballots early, whether that was through mail-in ballots or that was at early voting locations. There's almost 1 million registered voters in Travis County. Now, according to some numbers that we got from the the Travis County Clerk's Office. As of 5 o'clock p.m., more than 84,000 people have voted in person at polling places like here at Austin City Hall downtown, and they're still waiting. We've been looking at some of the waiting times at some of these polling places. Most of them are about 0 to 20 minutes, so they are subsiding. There are a couple that have longer than 15-minute wait times. I saw that Disability Rights Texas and also Our Savior Lutheran Church have lines that are about that long. We also have heard from the Travis County Clerk's Office that partial mail ballot results and early voting results are expected to be out sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock p.m. But polling places still having some people that are waiting that trickled in last minute to make their voices heard. So those are the latest for turnout, and we'll keep you posted on what happens next. But for now, live here at Austin City Hall, Isabella Basco for KVUE News.
All right, thank you so much, Isabella. And we've seen shots from Houston with Ted Cruz's watch party and from Dallas with Colin Allred's watch party. And now KVUE's Malia Masamoto joins us. She's at the Travis County GOP's watch party. Malia, what is the mood out there right now?
Well, Quita, we got here just a few minutes ago. It's already getting pretty festive in here. The doors open right at 7. We can see there's already a line outside the door now. But if you take a look, there's a lot of red out here. We're seeing some Make America Great Trump hats. A lot of festivities out here, a lot of red, white, and blue. But obviously, everyone here is going to be keeping an eye out for the presidential race, the race between Cruz and Allred. Also going to be looking out for some of the U.S. representatives tonight. There's some races here in Central Texas that we're going to want to watch. Incumbents Michael McCall, Pete Sessions, and Chip Roy. Those are going to be ones we are looking out for throughout the night here. Not entirely sure if any of these representatives are planning to show up here tonight, but they said some of the sponsors of the event and supporters will be making some speeches tonight and talking to us. So we will keep you posted for what is going on here at this event, and if anything happens, and of course keep you updated on all these election results. Live in North Austin, Malia Masamoto, KVUE News.
Thanks, Malia. And KVUE's Jessica Cha will join us now from the Travis County Democratic Party's.
Right, the party just started about 10 minutes ago, and it is already hustling and bustling in here. There's about 3 separate rooms where there are TVs on. There are people walking, they're getting something to eat, they're talking with each other, and they're looking forward to a lot of things going on today. Now, some other people that are expected to show up tonight are Representative Lloyd Doggett. There's Greg Casar. There's several Austin City Council members like Fuentes, who was her seat is up, and she's waiting to see what's going to happen this time around. And there's a lot of things that people are going to be monitoring tonight. Some of those things, like we said, the Austin City Council race, like Fuentes' seat, and then there's some congressional races with Lloyd Doggett, who is the Democratic incumbent, who is going to be against Jenny Garcia Sharon, who is a Republican opponent, and then there's also Democrat incumbent Greg Casar versus Republican Stephen Wright. And some other things that people are going to be keeping an eye on are things like the Affordable Care Act, Prop A in Travis County, which is going to be raising property taxes to help people get some more affordable health care. Now, people are still trickling in, so you'll have to check back in with us to see who's going to be showing up and who we can talk to about how they're feeling tonight about the race. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Jessica. And right now, let's take a look at Austin's mayoral race. I know a lot of people definitely want to see the results that are rolling in for that right now. And you can see incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson with 51% of the vote right now against the 4 challengers that are wanting and hoping to take his place. We have Kathy Tovo with 15%, Jeffrey Bowen 14%, Carmen Llanes Polido with 14%, and Doug Greco with 6%. But right now, a commanding lead by incumbent Kirk Watson. And you know what? We want to throw it back over to Ashley and Brian at our touch screen so we can take a look at some more results rolling in tonight.
Yeah, a lot of good results starting to come in, Quita, particularly when it comes to the race on top of everyone's mind, and that is the presidential race. In fact, the AP is already calling several states, calling them for, you can see with former President Trump with 95 of those votes, Vice President Harris with 35. One of the things that's interesting about this, though, Brian, is that we're not seeing the key states come into place. Those are the states that you see in yellow.
That's right. Those so-called battleground states that everybody's kind of keeping their eyes on. A lot of people remember Georgia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Arizona, Nevada from last year. Of course, the West Coast states still a couple of hours away. Georgia numbers starting to come in. North Carolina numbers starting to come in. Pennsylvania numbers. Those are the ones a lot of people are going to be watching tonight as those key big numbers start coming onto the board. Of course, 16 votes for each of these two states, 19 votes for the state of Pennsylvania. Again, those electoral votes, the number of Congress members and the 2 senators added together. That's how you get the electoral number for each state. So we're watching. And if you will, Ashley, let's go back to 2020 and kind of see. There's really not much that has changed as far as the races that have been called in the presidential race. You see the red zone here in the South and Southeast went solidly Republican as it is tonight. Of course, those key states we talked about, Ashley, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and then you get the 2 western states, Arizona and Nevada, all went blue, which gave President Biden the edge last time around.
Right. And something that you mentioned and we want to make sure we talk about is how they reach these numbers per state. So you remember we had a census, if you recall.
That's right,
and so that is why some of these numbers changed. For instance, Texas had 38 electoral college votes in 2020, but this year we get 40. You guys know that one of those extra congressional districts is here in our area, District 37. And so that is why you see some slight variations on some of these numbers here that we'll want to pay attention to. But as Brian said, this is as expected. This is not something that we're not expecting to see. And one of the things that's interesting is we can look at how votes are coming in those key states as of right now. So these are the key states, the ones that you just saw in yellow a moment ago. These are the ones that are really going to be telling for us to look at. And we can kind of scroll, Brian. You can probably reach a little bit better than me to see how things are looking as of now, where those candidates stand.
The state, the estimated total of number of votes counted, and the electoral votes on each square. So you can see in Georgia, the president, the former president, with a significant lead with 36% reporting. Michigan, not many votes counted yet, just 2%. Nevada, nothing yet. Of course, their polls are still open. North Carolina, pretty good lead, but again, only 8% vote counted there. Pennsylvania's a big one. That's the one everybody's going to be talking about tonight. A significant lead with 7% of the vote in and counted for the vice president. 234,000 there. Wisconsin, we don't have any votes yet. So we're going to be keeping an eye on all of these tonight as well. And of course, the tally, the running tally, you got to get to 270. If you don't get to 270, you can't be the president. Right now, the former president with 95 electoral votes. Those are the states that have been called so far. And we're going to be keeping an eye on that all night tonight.
Indeed. And one of the things that I also want to show you, one of the things that we can do new for you tonight, because Brian mentioned Pennsylvania, is a scenario map. So this is a look at how the votes went in 2020, but you can see just how much of a difference things would make. For instance, if former President Trump were to win Georgia, if he were to take one of those states, either Nevada or Arizona, it really starts to put Pennsylvania in place, because if he takes Pennsylvania, it's a key state. It is a key state for the Harris administration to have to win, and that's what they know, and that's what they're trying to get to, the Harris campaign, excuse me. And so let's go back, Brian, to some of the state races that...
Ooh, a lot more votes have come in.
A lot more numbers coming in. We're at 25%. Again, these are our early voting numbers really starting to drop in our area.
You can see Dallas County is blue. Around Houston, you've got some blue as well. As we expected, a lot of the western counties showing up in red, but again, these are very small counties. You can see Deaf Smith County with about 1,800 point lead or vote lead, but only 3,100 total votes counted. Again, that's about 43% reporting. As you go back to the presidential race, you can see in the state of Texas, more than 3. Let's take a look back at where we were 4 years ago. The entire state of Texas, about 11 million votes total, and we had almost 9 million or over 9 million early votes. So you can see there's going to be a significant swing as we get from early vote to today's vote. So we're going to be watching that as the night goes on tonight.
And it's exciting to see, because we want to see people get out. We want to see people take part in this process. And you know, traditionally, historically, Texas has very low voter turnout. And so it's very exciting to see people be engaged. Let's take a look at the Senate race. And you can take a look at this and see right now that Senator Ted Cruz, with only 25% voting, but reporting rather, already in the lead a little bit.
And again, look at this number, 3.1 million already this year. As we go back to the last time Ted Cruz ran, which was 6 years ago, 2018, the entire total just over 8.2 million. So we're going to have a lot more. It feels like we're going to have a lot more votes this time than we did 6 years ago, just simply because of the turnout we've seen in early voting.
Right. And I mean, keep in mind, like, we still have a lot of counties to drop their early voting totals. We still haven't seen, Travis County still has not reported any of its numbers yet. And so those types of things are very significant when we start to look at where these numbers are going to come into play. And how it's going to play out for the rest of the night. Let's go ahead and run through some of our congressional districts now that we're starting to get a little bit of numbers. We're not going to do that.
We're going to take a break. We're going to reset everything. We're going to have a quick break here in the studio. But of course, we'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
That's right. We'll keep election results scrolling on your screen, and then we'll be back with more live coverage in just a few minutes. Stick with us, everybody. Hi there, everyone. You have been watching ABC's election coverage, and we want to take a look at our local races with KVUE. Thank you so much for joining us, and you're watching. All right, everybody, you're watching KVUE News. We are tracking results from the top to the bottom of the ballot tonight. And we're going to start with taking a look at, I believe, the mayor's race. Ashley and Brian are going to take us to the touch screen in just a moment. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got in the mayor's race, where Kirk Watson is going up against 4 challengers tonight. Actually, we'll start with U.S. Senator. We can see some of the numbers, some of the early voting numbers that have started to roll in for a number of different races, local and statewide this evening. There's the Austin mayor number. Well, they were gone, but you could see that Kirk Watson was ahead with 51% of the vote against the 4 challengers that were hoping to unseat him in this election. And right now, let's toss it over to the touch screen with Brian and Ashley. I think they'll be able to work with the numbers a little bit better this time around.
We've got some glitches. It's early.
It's okay.
It's early.
We've
got some glitches.
Things happen.
We're going to work through
It's live television. We love it. Hey, we want to talk about some of the big races that we're watching. Obviously, you guys have been already watching what's happening with the president on ABC. So let's get into some of our local numbers. Obviously, the biggest race, statewide race at the top of the ticket is Senator Ted Cruz and U.S. Congressman Colin Allred.
This is one of those seats that the entire nation is watching, the Senate seat from Texas. Colin Allred early, you can see in Dallas County, Travis County, some of the cities, Houston, that area, you're seeing a lot of Democratic turnout. He's got 49.3% of the vote with about 38% reporting so far. At least those are the numbers that we have here in the station, with about 4.7 million people counted so far. So these numbers are going to change significantly over the night. But as you can look back to 2018, Ashley, you can see Beto O'Rourke was Ted Cruz's opponent then. The difference pretty similar to what we saw back then 6 years ago.
It is pretty similar. And one of the things that I think we want to look at, Brian, is I want you all to take one more good look at this map. You'll see where the blue is. Now hit that 2020 at the top and you will see it will be a matter of if Congressman Allred can keep what is blue and perhaps gain a few more districts. That's what it's going to take in order for him to be able to come out against Senator Ted Cruz. We expect all of this to stay red. If it's not already shaded up here, that is the expectation for the night. I think with the exception, I will say, of Fort Worth and what could happen in Tarrant County, it will be interesting to see what happens there and what way that goes. But, it's going to be interesting to see how he closes that lead if he was able to appeal to moderates.
Again, most of these votes, early votes. We had a significant turnout here in Texas for early voting. Let's take a look at some of the other congressional districts that we're following right here in the Austin area. Of course, Michael McCall has had that seat for a few years now, and he has a pretty significant lead, 37,000 votes over his challenger tonight.
In District 17, Congressman Pete Sessions is also in the lead right now. Again, very early, 25% reporting, but he has been a congressman representing this part. I know that name sounds familiar because he was in the Dallas area. He moved to the Waco area, but there's a sliver, if you will. Pflugerville, parts of Travis County are also in his district.
That's right. Congressional District number 21, Chip Roy has been in the House of Representatives for a while, and you can see his district just to the west of Austin, taking in Kerrville, some to the south as well. But that, again, Ashley, that little sliver right
of Travis County right there.
For Chip Roy's district now, he's got about a 13,000, 14,000 vote lead with about 50% counted so far.
If we go over to Congressional District 27, this is Congressman Michael Cloud. And again, it's the way that these districts are drawn, right? And you see this coming down. We're going to have so much more of this for our TV viewers. ABC's election night coverage resumes in just a moment. But if you want to keep watching the latest local election results, KVUE's coverage will keep going. Just tune in to KVUE Plus. You can find our streaming app on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
All right, we're back with you live now on KVUE Plus, and you can see we're talking about Congressional District 27. And Ashley, we were talking on the news at 6 about how a lot of these districts, you kind of see how it's going to unfold given the way the district is drawn. And by that I mean a strong Republican base. In this area of south of Austin, you can see Michael Cloud, the incumbent, with a pretty significant lead over his challenger, Tanya Lloyd, tonight.
Right, exactly. Some of these races are just, they've been this way for a little while. Interestingly, Congressman John Carter came very close to losing his seat when he faced off against MJ Hagar, but he was able to pull out the victory. In 2020, he ran unopposed, and so that was an easy win for him. We've just got about 49% voting right now, but you can see as of now, it's looking like the parts of Williamson County that he represents are staying red.
That's right. District 35 is that weird district we watched during the earlier part of the year where they drew this district to include some of Bexar County, some of Hayes County, some of Travis County. Greg Casares has that seat, and as we expected, a significant Democratic turnout in that vote as well. Greg Casares with a significant lead right now over his challenger, Stephen Wright, in Congressional District number 35. And
part of the reason why this district was drawn so strangely is because Texas got to add some districts because of the population. It still is early in the night, right? It is 7:30, but you see that check mark next to Congressman Doggett's name, and that meant there it is. Brian, stop touching.
I was going to circle him, but it doesn't want me to touch it.
Can't do it. So look, we're going to work out this kink that we've got going. We're going to toss things over to Quita Culpepper, and we'll talk more about this race. There it is. That's because the AP is calling that race. The Associated Press is calling this race for Congressman Doggett. Quita, let's go on over to you.
Live TV is the best, guys. I love it. Plus, it's still early in the night. We're working out all the kinks, but hey, we're bringing you everything that you need to know. All right. We want to take a look at the mayor's race, Austin's mayor's race. So let's see if we can bring that up. There it is. Kirk Watson still with 51%. Now you have to remember, these are the early voting numbers. Those just started being counted as soon as the polls closed. So you see incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson with 51%, Carmen Lanes Pulido with 19%, Kathy Tovo with 17%, Jeffrey Bowen with 8%, and Doug Greco, he is trailing the four others with 5%. Now, of course, Kirk Watson, he served as mayor here in Austin from 1997 to 2001 before again being elected back in 2020, I believe, in 2022, I'm sorry. And of course, he is running again to be mayor of Austin one more time. And with quite a commanding lead, it looks like he may not have to see a runoff this evening. All right, let's go to District 6 for the Austin City Council with incumbent Mackenzie Kelly at 48% and Krista Lane leading right now with 52%. And of course, District 6, that encompasses the northernmost part of Northwest Austin. All right, let's throw it over to Ashley Godot. She is ready to bring us an interview real quick and talk a little bit more about how this entire political process is going tonight.
All right, thanks, Quita. So I am now joined by Matthew Watkins. He's the editor-in-chief of the Texas Tribune. Matthew, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we obviously are watching a lot of the races here, obviously the big Senate race. Talk to me about the races that you're watching that's at the top of, the list for you in your newsroom.
Yeah, I think it has to start with the Senate race, right? Colin Allred versus Ted Cruz. He has been relatively close in the polls, but is, definitely an underdog there. And I think, the one that most Texans are watching tonight. There's also a few, state house races worth watching, as Democrats try to flip a few seats with the hope of cutting down the margins and on the school voucher issue in particular. And then, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the very top with the presidential race. Donald Trump, of course, the clear favorite to win Texas, but that margin will tell us a little bit about the, political direction this state is heading.
Now, you talk about the state house races, and I want to bring up several of those races we saw incumbents actually lose. We saw the governor campaigning against incumbents over the school voucher issue with the presumption that there are now going to be enough Republicans in the House to pass school vouchers if they so choose in this legislative session when it starts in January. So how critical are these seats for Democrats?
Well, Democrats are not going to win control of the Texas House, right? We know that it's pretty much a certainty. But what we do know is that there is still some Republican opposition to vouchers, and that the margin right now after those primaries is maybe 3, maybe 4 votes in the majority for the voucher issue. So if the Democrats could knock off a few races and maybe some of those seats where the incumbent was defeated in the primary, they could possibly change the math there. I would say it's a bit of a stretch, right? They would need to have a very successful night, but it's certainly possible for that to happen tonight.
And when we talk about the Senate, we, pretty much expect things to remain the same over there in that chamber, right?
That's right. Maybe one seat that is competitive, but the way that, redistricting has happened in this state, really in both chambers, the number of competitive races is just so much smaller than it was at the end of last decade, when you were hearing Democrats talking about possibly, flipping the House or making gains in the state Senate.
We've seen such strong voter turnout. However, we know that historically Texas does not have strong voter turnout. The early numbers were good. What's the indication you guys getting about Election Day?
Yeah, it's too soon to tell because most of the votes that we've seen counted so far have been early votes. There have been reports about lines in various polling places, so that's a good sign. But we really won't know until really probably tomorrow how turnout compared to 4 years ago or 2 years ago. The early vote with the raw numbers of votes was up, but the actual percentage turnout was a little bit down compared to past years. Of course, you would expect the number of votes cast to be broken every year just because Texas is a growing state and there's more people who are eligible to vote each time there's an election.
Right. We know that there was a little bit of a hiccup between the DOJ and the Secretary of State's office with them being able to put their monitors in. Have you guys been hearing about any election problems in your newsroom?
What I would say is that it has been quite smooth. There's always some kind of issues. You'll see like a power outage at a polling place or, some kind of thing like that. Maybe the internet goes out or something like that. But really, I have not heard of any major issues at this point, have not heard of, super long lines that are still being, cleared up 30 minutes after. So far, there's still a lot to do. There's still a lot of counting to be done. But so far, I would say it's been a quite smooth election, which, of course, is a good thing.
Indeed it is. We love it when everything runs smoothly. Matthew Watkins, editor-in-chief of the Texas Tribune, we thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll toss things back over to Quita.
Thanks, Ash. Well, KVUE senior reporter Tony Polahetsky is joining us now from Austin Mayor Kirk Watson's watch party. And of course, the watch parties across Austin and across the state starting to ramp up a little bit as the early voting numbers start coming in. And Mayor Watson facing 4 challengers. And Tony, it looks like he has a pretty commanding lead just from those early votes tonight.
Yeah, Quita, judging from those early returns, we're here at El Arroyo, certainly an iconic Austin business, and the crowd is starting to fill in some, seeing a lot of familiar faces I've known over the past 2.5 decades from living here and working here in Austin, political figures. Kirk Watson himself has not yet made it here, although, of course, we are expecting him within the next few minutes. But yeah, Quita, to your point, as we were watching those early returns and going into this race, the big question is whether or not Kirk Watson would be able to pull off a victory without being forced into a runoff next month. And if you look at those early results, he does just nudge himself over into 51.5%, rounding up 52%. So if that holds and if that is consistent as the returns from all the different precincts throughout the city come in, Kirk Watson would, in fact, avoid a runoff. But Quita, just stepping back, of course, Kirk Watson has been a political figure here, as you mentioned, for more than 3 decades. He served as Austin mayor, then served in the Texas Senate for a number of years before leaving public life and then re-entering public life as Austin mayor 2 years ago. And the man of the hour, Kirk Watson, is here. He has just arrived. I heard some cheers behind me, certainly a lot of hugs and pats on the back. Austin Councilmember Leslie Poole is here, and a number of other staffers who have worked for Kirk Watson and worked with Kirk Watson over the years. Again, the big question is whether or not his commanding lead is going to be enough to avoid a runoff. But just looking at, Quita, the finances of this election, the campaign finance, Kirk Watson raising more than $1 million for this race, far beyond what any of his four opponents were able to raise. He also, of course, brought the power of incumbency, a track record that he has pointed to for the ability to get things done at City Hall and to get things done at an accelerated pace and in a decisive way. So we will continue to keep you posted from here. Of course, we hope to speak to Kirk Watson as the night bears on, but for now, we'll go back to you guys, Brian and Ashley.
All right, Tony Plahetsky reporting live for us tonight. Tony, thank you very much for that. We're back here in front of the touch screen and with the electoral map, the races that have been called now by the Associated Press, and we've got a few more now than we had before, Ashley. Illinois just called with 19 electoral votes for the vice president.
Right, and so again, some of this is looking as we expect it to look. It looks very similar to 2020, where we're having the same number, or the same states rather, being called. But what's interesting, Illinois lost an electoral college vote from 2020 to 2024, just the changes in demographics and population.
Go back to 2008, watch what Texas had. 2008, Ashley,
oh yes, that's right.
34, we had 34 electoral votes. That's, again, the number of Congress members plus the 2 senators. Now in 2024, we have 40. In Texas. That means our population is growing significantly just over the last 18 years.
One of the things that is interesting, Brian, you had me go all the way to 2008, and I want to point this out for people again, is that when we look back at 2008, you saw states were going blue that were not going blue in 2012 and 2016, and certainly not in 2020. It was such a big change. If you focus in on this part of the country, and we go to 2012 and then we go to 2016, and you see things start to really change, and then they continue to stay changed. Right, in 2020, we saw more states going red. But it will be interesting to see how, again, this all plays out, really honing in on and really focusing on those key states, those 8 key states.
Let's take a look at those battleground states real quick as we can kind of give you an idea. With Georgia, 52% of the vote, 16 electoral votes, the former president with a more than 300,000 vote lead. Just the opposite in Michigan with about 7%. You can see Vice President Kamala Harris has a pretty good lead there. North Carolina is one that a lot of people are pointing to, along with Pennsylvania and Georgia. Those 3 states, a lot of the experts think, are going to kind of determine how this race goes. Right now in North Carolina, the former president leads. Right now in Georgia, the former president leads. So we're going to kind of keep an eye on those. Pennsylvania is a big one, Ashley. As you know, 19 electoral votes in the state of Pennsylvania, which is down from 20 in the last election, but they definitely will be a key state to watch as this election flows on.
It will. And let's go to one of our scenarios. Let's take a look at our scenario map to see what could happen. So if the former president is able to get Georgia and he's able to get North Carolina, but Harris is able to carry Pennsylvania, she wins resoundingly, easily. And so that is why this is so telling. Even let's say if the former president takes Nevada, even if the former president takes Arizona, as long as Harris takes Pennsylvania, then she will win. But it is, again, that's why so many people are focusing in and honing in on that particular race. Again, this is a scenario. scenario.
As long as
Okay?
she wins exactly what Biden won, in addition to keeping Pennsylvania, that's part of the scenario that we've been looking at tonight. But again, 270 is the number. As long as you get to 270, you get to be the president.
And as you pointed out, there's some other battleground states, right? There's also battleground states that will come into play at the top of the country in terms of what it would take for her to reach 270. But right now, the night is young.
Let's take a look. Can we look at the Senate race in Texas? I'm curious at the latest numbers.
Let's see the latest
for
numbers.
Cruz and Allred as we go through our touch screen here. This is, again, about 52%. That's a pretty significant number of votes are counted. 6.5 million, a little north of that. Ted Cruz with about a 3.5-point lead on Colin Allred now. And you're seeing a little more red fill in these rural areas in the Panhandle and north of Dallas. This is kind of, Ashley, what we talked about in 2018 when Ted Cruz ran against Beto O'Rourke. You can see the red flow all the way to Tarrant County and Dallas County in the North Texas. And this is kind of what we're seeing tonight in 2024. A lot of that red filling in, except for Tarrant County, which is interesting.
Right, and that is one of the things that we really kind of want to focus on is that right now it doesn't seem as though, and this says 69% reporting these numbers being fed to us from the Associated Press. This is not good for Colin Allred, who is from North Texas, who is a congressman in the Dallas area, who would hope to be able to carry some of that North Texas number to get some of those North Texas votes in order to be able to win. He would have to keep the border, which he has really touted his history of being from the, his grandparents are from the border. His grandfather, a Border Patrol agent, and so him going to the border, he talks about spending summers and spending time with his family there, and the division that has happened between him and the Democratic Party when it comes to border issues, him condemning the President Biden on border action. And so that will be interesting to see if it's enough for him to hold on to the border and perhaps pick up a few of the counties on the border in order for him to be victorious. But keep in mind, Congressman O'Rourke was from El Paso.
That's right. That's right. Won El Paso, but didn't do great. Won a few of these border counties, but did not sweep the border counties like he needed to do back in 2018. Again, the number's pretty high if you look at the total number of votes so far counted, which indicates we're on pace for about 13 million votes in this election. That's the entire total, 100% from 6 years ago, 8.3 million, which wasn't a presidential election.
That's where I was going, Brian.
But yeah, there's a significant number of votes that are being cast now that weren't cast 6 years ago. Now, again, we're a lot bigger state, too. We looked at the number of votes, so we've had a lot more people move in. But that's interesting. I'm curious to see how that plays out.
It's telling, but I just want to, make sure we remember presidential years. Yeah. You see a lot more people come out to vote. So it'll be interesting, though, to see how it all shapes out. We want to check in on some local races, though. Let's get with Quita over on the desk. Quita.
That's right. We want to take a look at what's going on in all of our Austin City Council races. We have a number of seats that are up right now. And you can see here, this is Vanessa Fuentes and Robert Reynolds. This is District 2, and that is, as you said, Vanessa Fuentes. You can see she has quite a commanding lead with 86% of the vote. She actually took office in 2021, and we didn't know too much about her opponent, Robert Reynolds. He listed himself as an instructor on his ballot application form, and right now he is quite a bit behind Fuentes with 14% to her 86%. All right, let's move on to District 4 with Jose Chito Vela. He is the incumbent, 62% of the vote right now. He is up against Monica Guzman with 26%, Louis Herron with 6%, Jim Raybuck with 4%, and Eduardo Romero with 3%. So again, you see another commanding lead in this city council race. All right, moving on to District 6, Mackenzie Kelly. She is the incumbent, but she is running a little behind her opponent, Krista Lane, right now. Kelly, 48%, Krista Lane, 52%. And let's move on to our next one. That is District 7. We have, let's see, a number of candidates here. Mike Siegel, 46%. Gary Bledsoe, longtime Austinite, 21%. Pierre Wynn, 15%. Adam Powell, 12%. Edwin Bautista, 6%. So Siegel in the lead right now. And we also have District 10, this is Mark Duchin with 51%, leading his opponent, Ashika Ganguly, 49%. So as you can see, there's definitely a little bit of room to work with there with both of those candidates' numbers. Some of the Austin City Council races, quite a commanding lead, others not so much. Let's take a look at Travis County Prop A. Now, this is the one where Travis County is asking voters to approve or reject a 2.5-cent property tax rate increase. And what that would do would expand access to affordable child care, after-school programming, and related services for low-income families. And it looks like the people of Travis County so far, with the early votes coming in and being counted right now, are in favor of that with 60%. 40% are against. And let's take a look at Austin ISD. That particular Prop A calls for voter approval of a 0.95 tax rate per $100 valuation for the current year. And the district says if that is approved, a homeowner with an average value home in Austin would see a monthly increase of about $34 in district property taxes. That would be about 412 cents a year. And again, it looks like Austin voters are in favor of this one as well, just with the early voting coming in, 59% to 41%. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to take a very quick break here in the studio.
That's right. We're going to keep these election results rolling in on your screen there. We'll be back with more live coverage here in just a few minutes.
That's right. Stick with us.
take a look at some local races here on KVUE News. And I believe we are going to start tracking some of the results from the top of the bottom to the ballot. Let's start with the Travis County DA's office and that particular election. We have Democratic incumbent Jose Garza, who is going up against Daniel Betts. And let's take a look at that one. We see Garza with 69% of the vote, Daniel Betts 31. Now, Garza was elected back in 2020. His reign as the Travis County DA has been a little bit full of a little bit of angst. Some people have been saying that his policies embolden criminals. Others saying it's part of a nationwide movement that will help with progressive prosecutors. All right, let's go to Ashley and Brian, if we can.
All right, let's talk about some of the big races that we're watching. Obviously, the race for the U.S. Senate, incumbent Ted Cruz right now carrying the state of Texas, Brian. A
lot of focus on this race. Nearly 7 million votes totaled so far. Ted Cruz with just over 51% of the vote, 3.5 million votes, 324,000 more than Colin Allred at this time.
Yeah, the story of the night when it comes to incumbents on those congressional races is incumbents are holding their own right now. All of the incumbents for the congressional seats in our area are in the lead in each one of their races. And of course, you can continue to watch KVUE Plus and watch all of this local coverage.
All right, we're back with the touchscreen, and we're talking about some of the local congressional races. District 31, John Carter has had that seat for a minute or two, and he looks like he's going to hold on to that seat as well. 220,000. I'm still in awe of the number of votes that we've gotten in so far in the state of Texas through mostly early voting, but we've got a lot of votes to count still. So these aren't final yet, but John Carter looks like he should be sleeping pretty good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is typically what we expect to see. The AP already calling the race for Congressman Greg Casar for his district, which runs from Austin and stretches down to San Antonio. When you think about how the AP calls races, right, how do they get to that little check mark that they have there? It is because they're doing some calculations to see if, based upon the number of votes that are already in compared to what still has to come in and the number of votes the person who is trailing would need in order to beat the incumbent or to beat the other candidate, if those numbers just don't shake out and they feel pretty confident there's no coming back, that's where you can get that little check mark on there.
That's right. They called the race for Greg Casar. Let's just take a trip back 2 years. Very similar numbers, different opponent, but more than 70% of the vote. He's not there yet, but there are indications as you go through Bexar County and Travis County, you're going to see his vote and his lead perhaps extend a bit over Stephen Wright there.
And it dropped a little bit. It dropped from when you were looking at 2020 because, again, the numbers are constantly rolling in. But, again, they do not believe the team at the AP does not believe that Stephen Wright is going to get enough to beat. If we look at Congressional District 37, this is another district that has been called for the incumbent, Congressman Lloyd Doggett.
Significant part of Travis County here with Jenny Garcia Sharon. I believe she was his opponent 2 years ago, and a very similar result. Lloyd Doggett with just over almost 77% of the vote. Right now he's just under 76% of the vote, about 287,000 this year. Actually more votes this year, right, just really early than he had in the entirety of 2022. Again, not a presidential election, so not as many people voted, but looks like Lloyd Doggett is headed back to Washington.
Yeah, and that's really telling, Brian, to think that more people have voted early than voted total.
It's crazy to
presidential year or not. The one thing to note about Jenny Garcia Sharon is she was against Doggett in 2022. If we had the ability to go back to 2020 when he was representing District 35, you would see that she was challenging him again. So this is an interesting not giving up, but going to be not victorious this time around. Let's talk about some of our House races, which are going to be particularly interesting as we go into the legislative session in January. This is a look at District 17, and the incumbent, Stan Gertis, Representative Stan Gertis, is holding a solid lead as of right now.
That's right. Again, this district, and this is a state House district, so you're not going to see quite as many votes, but Stan Gertis, the incumbent, with over 80%. That's significant. not been called yet, but he looks to be pretty comfortable as the incumbent in that District 17 race.
Absolutely. If we switch over to District 19 with Representative Ellen Troxclair, a former Austin City Council member who is the incumbent in this race. And, you know, some were really watching this race in the primary to see if she could be victorious because she was facing another former state representative Kyle Biederman, who had gotten drawn out of his district. He tried to challenge her this time around, but she overwhelmingly came out on top. And it looks as of right now, again, we're still early. We have 2 counties who have not even begun to report their numbers yet, but she has a solid lead. Just really quick to look at some of those other state house races where we're seeing incumbents in the lead in District 20. If we go over to 45 with Erin Zwiener over in Hayes County, she's in the lead. Same as 46 incumbent Cheryl Cole with a sizable lead right now, Brian.
That's right. As you're seeing the theme, the incumbents having success on both sides, really, the way the districts are drawn. You see BK, Vicki Goodwin is going to be the representative, it appears there. And again, this is a race we kind of had our eyes on going into the night. Caroline Harris Davila is the incumbent, but she's now got a challenger in Jenny Burkholz with just about 93,000 votes cast or counted so far, 10,000 vote lead for the incumbent. And this is a new person going to be representing this district.
Right. This was the district held by State Representative Andrew Murr, who led the charge in the House to indict. I'm sorry, not indict. Not indict.
Impeach.
Impeach.
Yeah.
Impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton, and he stepped down after that decision was made, and so we're going to have but he was a Republican, and so we're seeing a strong Republican showing in this district so far. We just want
Same challenger, by the way, Joe Herrera, back in 2022. He's there again.
We just want to point out the rest of these before we get to some more local races. Again, the incumbents holding strong. This is District 73 with Representative Carrie Isaac. If we look at House District 163, which is held by Representative John Busey, again, the incumbent in the lead here. And the final race that we want to look at, we're not getting any data reported out of this race just yet, but this is the Senate district with incumbent Donna Campbell. I'm not going to be surprised to see her having a strong showing over here as well.
Let's just look at the presidential race before we go back to Quita. I want to take a quick gander at the state. As you can see, the vote coming in, 7.2 million votes now. The former president here in Texas with a pretty significant 600,000 vote lead at this point, but still a lot more votes to count. Again, we had about 9 million early votes. So we're not even to that total yet, but you can kind of see the map filling in with a lot of red for the former president here in the state.
And if we see how things went in 2020, obviously the former president won, but the numbers were a little bit tighter back then. But again, to your point, Brian, 9 million early votes. Yeah. And we're not even there yet with done looking at the early vote total. All right, let's get a look at some of our local races.
Gatorade. You got any Gatorade over there, Quita? You got any Gatorade over there?
I'm running on pure water tonight, honey. You're going to have to drink some water. All right, time to go to Williamson County and take a look at some of their results. We're looking at the results. Early voting results right now for the Williamson County Sheriff. We have Mike Gleason, 59 years old, running for his second term against Matthew Lindman. He is a 58-year-old county constable, and right now Lindman has 52% of the vote to incumbent Mike Gleason's 48%. Again, Gleason running for his second term as the Williamson County Sheriff. We'll see how those results roll out as the evening progresses. And now, Round Rock ISD, let's go to Prop A. 60% for, 40% against. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Do we have a next one? There we go. Prop B, 59% for, 41% against. And in Prop C, I believe, let's see, for 55% against 45%. And we should have one more for Round Rock ISD. There it is, Prop D. 43% of the voters out there in Round Rock ISD say they are for it, and 57% are against it. Now, these four propositions would fund improvements to district facilities all over Round Rock ISD, and at $998 million, it is the largest bond in the district's history. So a lot of people coming out to vote for this, obviously, and we are moving on to look at some more and actually to go to Ashley Godot. She's right here, and hear what other people are saying about tonight's political process. Ashley?
Thanks, Quita. I am joined now by Travis County GOP Chair Matt Makowiak. Matt is actually in Florida tonight. Matt, talk to us about how things are looking out there where you are. Oh, it looks like we're having a slight microphone issue. No, we did that.
Sorry.
There we go. All right, Matt. So you're actually with former President Donald Trump's campaign out in Florida.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement here. You know, the data points that we've seen up to this point tonight seem to indicate that Trump is doing better, I think, than people expected, better than he did in 2020, and that the election may be looking more like it did in 2016. We still have to see what happens with Pennsylvania, with Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada. But it looks like he's going to win Georgia by a comfortable margin, and it looks like he's going to win North Carolina as well. The shocker at this point is Virginia, where he clings to a small lead with about half the vote in. I don't think that's a state that people thought Trump was likely to win. I think there was a sense that it was likely to be more competitive than people thought, but that would really be a shocking result if he won Virginia. But we'll see. Going to have several hours ahead, maybe several days ahead.
You know, I know while you are in Florida, I know you also have your finger on the pulse of what's happening here at the state of Texas. You share with us your thoughts on Senator Cruz and Congressman Allred, the turnout, and how we're seeing how close of a race this is as of right now.
Yeah, Cruz, I think, is going to be fine from what I can tell. I think the fact that he won Tarrant County in the early vote is a good indication that Allred did not win enough votes and overcome Trump's margin in Texas. It looks like Trump is going to improve on his margin in Texas, which was 5.6% in 2020. I think he'll be more in the 7 or 8% range when it's all said and done. That's going to help carry Cruz over the line. Cruz will underperform Trump, but he's only underperforming by a few percentage points at this point. But we've got more counties to come in. Of course, we have all of Election Day still to come in. But Cruz, I think, will end up likely winning in, I think, the 3 or 4% range, while Trump wins Texas by probably 7 or 8, maybe 9.
You know, when we look at what's happening in Central Texas in particular, I know, you know, your focus is Travis County, but really all of Texas and all of Central Texas, the incumbents in Congress are doing quite well tonight.
Well, we don't have any competitive congressional seats that have Travis County in them. Our congressional seats are not competitive. They're either Republican seats or Democratic seats, so that's not a huge surprise. There's really only 2, maybe 3 congressional seats in Texas of the 38 that are competitive. They're all in South Texas. They're all along the border. One is held by a Republican, 2 are held by Democrats. And in fact, probably the third most competitive of those seats, which is represented by Henry Cuellar, who's facing a felony indictment for bribery. Right now, it looks like the Republican challenger is narrowly ahead through early vote, which is a pretty shocking result. I don't think there was much of a belief that Jay Furman, although he's an impressive guy with a military background, was likely to topple a long-term incumbent like Cuellar. But perhaps those legal problems are creating a bigger problem for him with voters than I think we thought. I think the other thing there is the Hispanic vote is moving sharply in the Republican direction. We're going to see that build. It started in 2016. It's going to build on that for 2020, and it's going to build again tonight as well. You're going to see that not just in a couple of those congressional seats. You might see it in one state Senate seat with Adam Hinojosa taking on the Democratic incumbent Morgan LaMantia down in South Texas. You
know, you mentioned those seats being picked up, particularly if that seat is able to be picked up, that congressional seat. What does that say to the balance of power really for Congress?
Yeah, I mean, the congressional majority is only 4 seats for the Republicans. It's really on a razor's edge. When you have a narrow majority like that, it empowers a small number of members who, you know, may not want to be kind of part of a team. They may want to do something for their own reasons or their own ideological purposes. And it's hard to govern when you have a very narrow majority. So every individual seat matters greatly. The expectation was that the House majority would likely follow the presidential because there's close correlation there. It's going to be several days, maybe several weeks till we know, probably on the House, because there are some seats in California and New York, I think, that are going to be very, very close and will take quite a while to work their way through the system. But yes, if Republicans were to pick up 1 or even 2 congressional seats in South Texas, that would be an earthquake.
Yeah, it certainly will be interesting to watch. Matt, we thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us this evening.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, we want to take a look at something that's going on in Hays County. Hays County Prop A. That is a $440 million road project that is in the hands of voters tonight. And you can see 55% of voters out in Hays County are for that particular Prop A, and 45% are against. Now, the bond is aimed at building and improving 31 roads throughout the county, including in cities like San Marcos, Kyle, Buda, Wimberley, and in Dripping Springs. Now, again, these are the early votes that are still coming in and being counted tonight. And for Prop A in Hays County, it is 55% for and 45% against. And we have some things happening over on our board tonight. Let's throw it over to Brian and Ashley.
All right, thanks, Quita. Well, we just had another state called in the big race at the top of the ticket, the race for president.
Can I use my touchscreen powers?
Absolutely.
Ohio for the former president, which takes him to 137 electoral votes, needs 133 more to get back to the White House.
And I point out in 2020, former President Trump also won Ohio. They have one less electoral college vote this year compared to last year. But there is something very interesting that Matt Makoviak, what we heard him talking about, and that is, Brian, Virginia. Okay, this is a very interesting race to watch. And so what I'm actually going to do is I am going to select Virginia as one of the key states now, because right now in the early leads, it looks like former President Trump is leading in Virginia. So if we go down to Virginia, you can see he is in the lead there. Oh my, but I can't help but to look at Wisconsin. It drew all of my attention when you see something like just up by 717 votes.
Not many votes cast yet, though.
That's true.
There's 0% reporting.
But with 50% reporting, if the former president is able to claim Virginia, right, which is typically a Democratic state, that is significant. So let's go back to our electoral map, and let's play around with the scenarios.
Let's do our scenario. These are just scenarios now.
So this is basically who won in 2020. But if we give the state of Virginia to former president...
Wait. We got to reset.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got to reset here. Hang on. Let's give Nevada and... because Nevada and Arizona went blue.
That's right.
In 2020.
That's right. But if we give him Virginia, then that is interesting. Of course, Georgia is one of those states that is kind of up in the air. And so we're really watching that, as well as North Carolina. But, if we look at what happens if he takes Nevada, what happens if former President Donald Trump takes Arizona?
Nevada and Arizona gets him way over.
And then Pennsylvania wouldn't even come into play yet.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Harris, for me real quick, let's go back, and you can see now the numbers. This is, again, a scenario. If the former president wins Virginia, which he didn't in 2020, wins North Carolina, and wins Georgia, you could see the difference now. He would still need something else. He would still need one of the two here or Pennsylvania. She has a 275,000 vote lead right now in Pennsylvania. So the path is still not crystal clear, even with the victory in Virginia. But again, if you'll touch 2024,
if that happens.
That's all scenario.
All scenario. All right, we are going to go ahead.
Wait. We've just got one that popped up red here, the big one.
That's right. The state of probably a shock to no one. Probably a shock to no one watching.
Let's see what the vote was in Texas for the former president. Yep, there's the check mark. It's been called. It's 53.9%. He was at 52% back in 2020. So you can see pretty similar. I don't think that's a huge surprise. The margin of victory right at 667,000 votes, victory. I said victory. The lead at this point. But again, I'm drawn to the pure number of votes cast in this election. 7.3 so far in 2020, just over 11 million. So a lot of people voted, which is good. Which is good for the state of Texas.
But I'm going to tell you who's not happy to see this right now, and that's Colin Allred. Because of that margin of victory that the former president has, he picked up a few percentage points compared to, and it just went up even more. So compared to him picking up percentage points, means it is likely that Senator Ted Cruz is also picking up percentage points.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is not a good look. And one of the things that's not really good for the congressman is Tarrant County. And the fact that this Tarrant County went to Beto O'Rourke back in 2018. Did it not?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it did. It went to Beto O'Rourke barely.
But look at how close. It's 12,000 votes out of what? How many have been cast so far? 655,000. It's not called yet, clearly, for the senator either way. But the fact that you're right, that Tarrant County is now leaning red when it wasn't red in 2018 is a good sign for the current U.S. Senator from
Absolutely.
Texas.
If the congressman had any chance at all, he was going to have to keep everything that Beto O'Rourke won and add to it. And again, that big lead.
A lot of these.
Right, that's it right there. And that is it. That's what's got to stay a certain color. But also, you really needed to carry a major urban area like Fort Worth, right? Like Tarrant County. And so again, the lead that Trump is seeing, right, higher percentage points means he's faring, Ted Cruz is faring better. We actually want to toss things out to one of our crews that is out in the field.
She's getting ready. She's lining something up for us, I think.
That is exciting. Yes, Isabella Basco. She's out. She's roaming. She's roaming all around the city to see what's going on. So with that, going back to that presidential election again, looking at that lead.
Let's check Travis County, Williamson County, Hayes County in the presidential race. See how everything's stacked up in the presidential race. It has been called the state of Texas, but as you can see, Travis County heavy for the vice president, more than 70% of the vote. In Hayes County, you can see there just over 52% of the vote. And Williamson County is red this time. I don't think it was red last time.
It was not.
I think Joe Biden won Williamson County. So the former president, doing better in Williamson County than he did 4 years ago. So that's a good sign for the former president now with 50% of the vote in Williamson County. Again, not really relevant to the state because it's already been called, but you can see how things where the vote fell in the counties that we cover here in Central Texas.
It's interesting. And I also want to point out the thing that you like to point out, which is the number of votes behind. 3,000 votes, 3,300 votes, not a ton of votes to be behind. And so I think that that number, we expect it to change a little bit, but certainly interesting to see. And I think what this says is, what is this going to say about state races? What is this going to say about local races? In Williamson County, they're electing a sheriff tonight.
That's right.
And so that is going to be interesting to see. The incumbent right now is a Democrat, but if people went into the polls and they voted, you can't vote straight ticket, but if they voted all Republican compared to what they voted last time, it is definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be telling, and you're going to see the impacts of that in our local races, local jurisdictions.
And we saw that just a few minutes ago on KVUE Plus here, the race pretty close, but the incumbent, Mike Gleason, losing in that sheriff's race in Williamson County. As you talked about, a heavy Republican turnout in Williamson County, and you could see that in the presidential race as well.
The big race that we're watching locally, we talk about those local races, is there's another race, and that is the State House race for House District 52. It was a Democratic race, years and years ago. The incumbent, Caroline Harris, Davila, with a good lead as of right now.
That's right. Trying to hang on to that seat, the incumbent with a nice lead at this point. All right, it's time for a quick break. We're going to be back here on KVUE Plus in just a few minutes. Quita, over to you.
All right. Well, I think you said it all, guys. We'll be right back on KVUE Plus, going from the top to the bottom of all of the races, keeping you up to date on exactly what's going on. So stick with us, and we will be back. Hi there, everyone. I'm Quita Culpepper with Brian and Ashley. We are tracking results from the top to the bottom of the ballot. Let's check in with the mayor's race first. It looks like, let's take those numbers. Can we take them? I don't know. They're coming up, though. Mayor Watson has 4 challengers, and you can see he still has a pretty commanding lead with 51%. All right, let's move on to District 2, Austin City Council. Vanessa Fuentes, 86% to Robert Reynolds, 14%. All right, moving on to District 4, we see the incumbent, Jose Chito Vela, with 62%, a very commanding lead beyond his 4 other challengers. Mackenzie Kelly, the incumbent, 48% to challenger Krista Lane's 52%. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that race. We have Mike Siegel with 46%, Gary Bledsoe 21%, Pierre Wynn 15%, Adam Powell 12%, and Edwin Bautista with 6%. So we'll see how that race turns out as well. For, let's see, District 10, we have Mark Duchin with 51% and Ashika Ganguly with 49%. Another close race right there. All right, we're going to want to turn it over to Ashley and Brian really quick so they can take us to the touch screen and show us some other races.
Yeah, you know, we know that people have been watching the presidential race on ABC. Here, the race that we're really talking about is the race for U.S. Senate.
That's right, Ted Cruz with a pretty significant lead if you count the number of votes. 52% for the senator now, 466,000 vote lead over Colin Allred. But zoom in if you would, Ashley. Let's look at our 3 areas. Williamson County, Travis County, and Hayes County. You can see all blue in this election, just like it was 6 years ago when when Ted Cruz was facing off against Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, one of the things, though, that is interesting, and, you know, some people had thought that Allred was going to have a smaller lead in Williamson County, that it was going to follow the presidential race. When it comes to the presidential race, former President Donald Trump won Williamson County. That's being called by the AP. You see he won with a little more than 3,300 votes. But when it comes to the Senate race, I mean, this is just really telling to see that you had people go into the ballot box and vote for Trump and against Cruz.
That's right, a big significant number of early votes, which is mainly what we're seeing now counted. But yeah, the president, former President Trump has already been called for Texas. Not so in the Senate race just yet, but we're starting to see the red fill in where we expected that to fill in out in West Texas and North Texas. And then again, the area we're watching, Ashley, if Colin Allred hopes to have any chance to play catch up, he's got to do really well along the border. That's been a huge, huge part of his focus this election cycle.
Not only the border, though, Brian, because he lost Tarrant County, right? Because he lost.
He's losing.
You're right. He is losing. He has not lost it yet. Because he is losing in Tarrant County, he's also got to pick up these votes. He's either got to pick up something within this reporting, you know, the precincts that haven't finished reporting yet. Something has to turn around if he's going to find himself victorious in that race. That is not the button that I wanted to push. I want to push the total button. Okay, there we go.
But you can see the congressman has done well in the urban areas, which we thought he would.
Right.
Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, which he needed to do. But again, he's got to do well along the border. If you look back at 2018, you see some blue there for Beto O'Rourke. You got to have even more blue if you want to win, if you're Colin Allred tonight.
Exactly. When it comes to the congressional races, there aren't really many competitive races in our district. So as of right now, all of the incumbents are winning. That's also what we're seeing when it comes to the House district races. So we're going to have much more for you, though, for our TV viewers. Just keep watching on KVUE Plus now. We'll have more of these numbers for you.
That's right. Stay with us right here on KVUE. KVUE's election coverage keeps rolling on. Watch on KVUE Plus. We'll be there in just a few seconds. competitive races in these districts that are specific, let's be honest, specifically drawn for either a Democrat or a Republican in the State House of Representatives. This, clearly, a Republican district. Clearly, the incumbent, a Republican, is going to win significantly. As you can see, I should not say that. He's got a significant lead, nearly 70%. Stan Gertis with the lead there.
It's going to be really tough, right, to overcome this. And so I think, Brian, one of the things is this is why we talk about the primaries being so important in Texas, that the real election is during the primaries for these state seats, because as we continue to go through the State House races, you can see the incumbents with solid leads.
None of them are really competitive. I mean, when you go down the list, except for one. There's one House district that we've been watching tonight we thought might be a little closer than the others, and it is, but the incumbent, Caroline Harris Davila, with 55.6% of the vote. She is 10,000 votes ahead of her challenger, Jenny Burkholz. And again, that district, mostly almost all Williamson County, as you can see the vote red as of this hour.
The thing that makes this race one of the ones that people were watching is how we look at the population start to shift. You're starting to see Hutto just boom, right, in terms of development.
Should I circle Hutto?
I know you like to circle
There's
stuff.
Hutto right
Okay, so Hutto is booming. Round Rock also booming. You're starting to see a lot of neighborhoods popping up in Georgetown, and people who are being priced out of Austin, priced out of the metro, are starting to move. And that is why at one point we saw, a red district go blue in the House. The district was redrawn, this particular district redrawn. It is red again. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But we've got a significant amount of the vote in at this point.
A lot of votes. Somebody told me something in my ear. If you could tell me that one.
Right, so we're going to now have an interview, get some more analysis to talk about what's happening all over the state with none other than Pooja Sethi. She is the chair of the Travis County Democratic Party. I believe she is...
I don't think she heard you because her mic's aren't on yet. Can you
Can you hear us now, Pooja?
I can hear you. Hi, everybody. Hi, Travis County.
Talk to us a little bit. The races that we've been seeing tonight, the one at the top of the list that so many people are thinking about is the race for Senate. Right now, Congressman Allred behind Senator Ted Cruz. What are you feeling? What are you hearing down there?
Well, we know Travis County does its part. We worked really hard to turn out voters, and our big job was getting Travis County out, Central Texas out, and we had a lot of voters come out. And so just in Travis, we had a lot of people who were very much for Colin Allred. We even had some people who said we've been Republican and we wanted to vote for Colin Allred this time. So that's where my focus has been. I haven't had a chance to look at statewide numbers as much.
When you talk about some of the races in Travis County, then if we're looking at the state races, the state house races, a lot of our incumbents are faring very well tonight.
They are doing very well. People love our incumbents in Travis County. Our state legislators, they really do their job. Our senators, and they're present in our Travis County delegation is so present that they don't really have big challenges, and they step up and do the work, and it shows through the numbers.
And even more so, you have a lot of incumbents, congressional incumbents there with you tonight, too. Talk to us about who's there with you at the Driscoll tonight.
We have Congressman Kassar coming. We have Congressman Doggett coming. They are very well loved. They are watching the House races nationwide, and so I'm told that they're coming in and out because they're very nervous about the national races that are happening right now.
And nervous because when we think about the balance of power, right, that is a very significant thing. A lot of the Texas districts are drawn the way that they're drawn. They're going to go, but there are some congressional districts at play in the state of Texas tonight.
You've got Michelle Vallejo, you've got the Julie Johnson race. I believe Julie Johnson is up. I haven't looked at the Michelle Vallejo numbers, but yeah, there are some congressional races that we're watching across the state of Texas.
What's your overwhelming message to voters tonight as they're starting to see these numbers rolling on in?
Well, I saw that some of the places are still red, so if you're in line in Travis, stay in line. We need you to vote. We need every person to vote. And we should be proud. I mean, we're doing the work, and everyone should be proud of the block walking that they've done and the phone banking and all the work that we've done.
All right. Pooja, we thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us tonight. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Looks like a good party going on over there.
Indeed. Well, it's at the Driscoll, so
We've got
there
some
you
updates
go.
on the presidential race. We've got some states called for the former president. You could see the red is kind of filling in where you expected to see the red filling in. A couple of states we haven't seen yet, Virginia and North Carolina. A lot of people keeping their eyes on those two states, and we're expecting those two to be called pretty soon, and we'll see how that kind of sways the way this electoral college is setting up.
Yeah, when we talk about what is happening with those key states, you can see that Virginia is one of those states. We went ahead and added it to the key state list because it wasn't initially.
It's like Bob Barker.
It's not like Bob Barker. No. It's not The Price is Right, mister.
So they haven't called Georgia yet, but the former president with a significant lead. Same for Michigan, only 13% of the vote in. Mm-hmm. Nevada has, I don't think their polls have even closed yet. Maybe they have. North Carolina is a big one. That's a big one.
Right.
Right now, some are projecting this to be a lot closer than people thought. And the former president with 58% of the vote with a pretty significant lead there. But then the opposite in Pennsylvania, which is a huge 19 electoral votes, 198,000 point lead or vote lead for the vice president. And then Virginia, you get down to Virginia and Wisconsin, you can see it's going to be a long night for a lot of these.
It is going to be a long night. Virginia is not, this is not what people necessarily expected to see. People really thought Virginia was easily going to be a blue state, and we're starting to see. So now let's test your memory, Brian.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to our hypothetical, our possible, our scenario map.
Okay.
Right? And so we talk about what would happen if former President Trump gets Georgia, gets North Carolina, if he gets Virginia.
Okay.
But some of the other leads that you were seeing, talk to us. Let's look at, let's play, right? So if Harris is able to carry Pennsylvania,
that's a huge one for her.
That's a huge one.
If the former president wins Virginia and North Carolina, she has to win Pennsylvania.
Right.
If he wins these two and she doesn't win Pennsylvania, she will not be the president.
Right. It's just that simple, because if he takes Pennsylvania, it's over. And even if she is somehow able to get Virginia, you know, it's still going in his favor if he wins Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's huge. Again, we're not calling anything. These are just scenarios that we've been looking at to get to 270. And you can see the way it's set up here, which is very close to what it was in 2020, with the exception of Pennsylvania. The president gets 270 votes. But if he doesn't get Pennsylvania, then you're going to have a significant difference. Go ahead.
So for Pennsylvania, so let's go ahead. Let's give some of these states away, right? Let's give them away. So Georgia's
red,
and we're going to give Michigan.
Michigan's blue right now, which I think is where it was. Yep.
Yep. Michigan was. So these are pretty much kind of where they were. But even if you start to give some of the tied states, so even if you gave Nevada to former President Trump, even if you gave him Arizona. You know, they're still.
That's as close as you can get right there.
Without Pennsylvania, without Virginia. That's why these two right here. You want to circle something, Brian? I know you're
Which
itching
one?
to
What do you mean? What do you need me to circle?
Pennsylvania and Virginia.
I mean, clearly we're looking at this state, and this state right now. Those are the Eastern time zone states that we should have in a perfect world tonight. These two might be a while, especially this one, Maricopa County. They've already had issues there, so we're going to have to wait on that one. But those three states, if you're kind of new to politics like me and you're kind of paying attention to the key swing states, those three right now are the ones
on
that are
our
really
scenario
important.
board. As of right now, they're not called. This is where we stand as of right now.
That's the current state that AP is called. Some other places are calling, but we're not following any other places, actually. We follow the Associated Press.
And they have a lot of rules before they will call a state.
That's right. So we're being very careful. And you can see here, Georgia has not been called yet. And none of these three big ones have been called yet. But, of course, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all of those are still up in the air as well.
Yeah.
So we're in for a long evening, I think, as far as that race is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a long race. Let's talk about the other big race, though, that folks are talking about here, and that is the Senate race. Right now, Senator Cruz with a nice lead as of right now in the state of Texas.
That's right. The senator holding on to red counties and red districts like he did if you look back 6 years ago.
And even flipping, as of right now, it's still early, but even flipping Tarrant County.
Watch Tarrant. Show them where Tarrant County is.
Let me draw. Give me a.
You want to draw?
Here we go. So Tarrant County is right here where the D in Dallas is on our map.
Now watch Tarrant County. That's 2018. Let's go to today. Uh-oh, it's red again for him.
And that's a lot of votes. Tarrant County is a lot of people. There's a lot of voters, 655,000 voters in Tarrant County total. And so
that's Fort Worth, by the way, right?
Yes, Fort Worth is in Tarrant County. And so this was a really key area. And again, a congressman from Dallas not being able to carry that urban area in North Texas. You don't know if that speaks to voter turnout or if that speaks to people deciding to vote for.
What was the presidential race in Tarrant County? I'm just curious to see where that stood. Again, yeah, the same exact amount of votes. The former president, 52.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.5%. Again, that's Tarrant County. So the president carrying that. Let's go back to 2020. Joe Biden won Tarrant County.
He did. Indeed, he did.
So that's a big difference in the state of Texas.
It is significant. It's something we're going to continue to watch throughout the night. But right now, we want to get with one of our crews who is out in the field. Isabella Basco is with Austin mayoral candidate Carmen Yanis Pulido. She is at her party right now. And I believe from the last numbers we saw that Yanis Pulido is in second place in this race right now. Is that right, Isabella?
You've got it right, Ashley. That's right. Carmen Yanis Pulido is second in the race so far with almost 19% of the vote, trailing behind Mayor Kirk Watson. I am joined by her right now. We are at her watch party at El Maison Tequileria. Now tell me, Carmen, how are you feeling right now being second, almost 19% of the vote? How confident are you when it comes to approaching a runoff election possibly?
I am confident in the wherewithal of Austin, Texas to choose new and accountable leadership and to push for more accountability in our local governance and to put public interest over special interest. I think we are sending a loud and clear message.
You know, Mayor Kirk Watson, as we said, he has just over 51% of the vote. You know what I mean? He is a popular choice when it comes to consistency and putting it on the ballot. To talk about, I know that when we've talked in the past, housing affordability, climate preparedness, those are some of the biggest issues that you have talked about. Can you just give a reminder to our viewers, if you are to be, if a runoff to happen, if you were to be our next mayor, what's going to be at the top of the ballot? What's going to be at the top of Austin issues for you?
Securing our critical infrastructure, that's our power and our water, and addressing real affordability. We have to lower the cost of living in Austin, and we have to recognize that what is being churned out in the last 2 years and by the market is not affordable to the vast majority of Austinites. We need more deeply affordable housing, and we have to protect the right of people in this city to negotiate for better for Austin, for public interest over special interest, who has largely funded the current presidential challenger as well as this incumbent mayor.
Talk about still leading with a good majority here, but what have you kind of been feeling from the rest of the community? What have you been hearing from voters as well as we approach the rest of the night tonight?
Deep concerns about the state of things, but so much promise, so much optimism, creativity. We have such a wealth of community here, very diverse community members who bring decades of expertise, who bring new perspective from other places, and those connections we've seen in this campaign alone, just the progress people have been able to make in their own networks and connecting around the issues that affect us the most, gives me a lot of hope for the future of Austin.
Exactly. So we'll keep an eye out for you. Like I said, you are second behind Mayor Kirk Watson, so we'll keep an eye out and see what else is out there. Any last words you would like to share with Austinites as we're watching the rest of this election unfold?
I am the age that Kirk Watson was when he became mayor the first time. I was in high school at that time. I will be 40 next month. I have had a lifetime to learn the good, the bad, the ugly about how Austin can grow with its people or without. It is time for us to take back our city and grow and reinvent this city with the values that we love, and we can do that together. I invite people to learn more about me at carmenformayor.com.
All right, we just heard from Carmen Yanis Pulido, who is right now trailing second in this mayoral race. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to keep you posted on the rest of the results as we watch the rest of this election unfold. But for now, I'll bring it back to you. We are live at El Maison Tequileria. Isabella Basco for KVUE News.
All right, thank you, Isabella. We appreciate that report.
All right, let's talk about the Senate race again. Ashley, we're getting more and more numbers in. Again, huge turnout of voters, early voting and mail-in ballots, and we're seeing those numbers just really add up. More than 8.1 million votes so far, and we're expecting about 9 million early votes to be counted, so we're not even to that level yet.
Yeah, we have not even, if typically you see the same amount of people come out for Election Day that you see on early voting. That's what we see in a lot of Texas counties. I don't know if we're going to see that this election.
Yeah.
If we do, wow, I will be dancing. I would gladly dance right here. If that many of Texans went out and cast ballots, that would be absolutely fantastic, right?
This was 6 years ago when Ted Cruz ran against Beto O'Rourke. 8.3 million total. 100%. And this year, 8.1 million, and we're not even to 65%.
Right, and we know, like you pointed out, 9 million early votes.
Yeah.
So if we could get 18 million Texans voting, legit, guys, I will dance for you.
That's a
right
huge.
Here. I'd be so happy about it. But it's interesting to see, though, how these numbers are shaping out.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to see which counties have yet to report anything. Those border counties where, again, immigration and the problem with illegal immigration has been a huge topic this race, specifically this race.
Absolutely.
Those counties aren't reporting yet. So you're seeing a little blue pop up. But if we go back to 18, when Beto O'Rourke did really well in those counties, Brownsville, Harlingen, some larger cities down along the border. So we're watching those to see how they come in. But right now, it looks like Senator Cruz is in a pretty good spot with 8.1 million votes counted.
And with keeping in mind, it's going to take more than that, right? It's going to take more than what Beto won if you're going to be successful. But also interesting to your point, Brian, is we're seeing these numbers, and you're seeing this. You haven't seen these numbers come in yet, and yet the presidential race is already called in Texas.
Called. Yeah.
It's already called.
You mean to just circle that real quick before we go to Malia?
Right, that check right there.
That's
and
it.
so we do want to check in with KVUE's Malia Masamoto. I'm going to get it out. She's at the Travis County GOP's watch party. How are folks feeling over there, Malia?
Well, Brian and Ashley, the mood is very high here right now. The room has completely filled up opposed to when we started here. If you take a look, it's a sea of red behind me. People have been cheering all night long. Like I said, the mood is high. They have been watching the screens here. They're watching Fox News, and they have been cheering every time a state has been called for President Trump. That's obviously the big race they're watching, but the biggest cheers were when Fox called Cruz's race. It was about a minute or so of cheering here. The Republicans I talked to today said they are hoping for a clean sweep, so that was one big thing that they have been watching and hoping to see tonight. Now, AP has not officially called it, but they are showing that he is in the lead right now. But again, the mood is high here. Moving over to the House of Representatives, we have heard that Michael McCall has been reelected for the U.S. House Representative, Texas 10th Congressional District. AP has called that one, so that's another one we've been watching. Still waiting to hear official results for the other representatives like Pete Sessions and Chip Roy, but we will keep an eye on those races as those are coming in as well. But again, like I said, the mood is high here. People are waiting to see what's going on next, but we'll keep you live and updated throughout the night. Live in North Austin, Malia Masamoto, KVUE News.
All right, thank you so much, Malia. We appreciate all your hard work out there. Okay, we want to take a look at a couple of Prop A's that are on tonight's ballot. Let's start with Travis County Prop A. That is 60% for and 40% against. Now, Travis County is asking voters to approve or reject a 2.5-cent property tax rate increase to expand access to affordable child care, after-school programming, and related services for low-income families. And county leaders say that the impact of Prop A that comes out to roughly about $126 more a year for the average Travis County property owner. And again, you can see 60% of Travis County voters are for Prop A and 40% are against. All right, let's move on to Austin ISD's Prop A. This one calls for voter approval of a 0.95 tax rate per $100 valuation for the current year. Now, the district says if this one is approved, and you can see 59% are for, 41% are against, a homeowner with an average value home in Austin would see a monthly increase of about $34 in district property taxes. Okay, still so many results rolling in tonight. I want to toss it back over to Brian and Ashley. They've got some more things to show us. Guys?
Thanks, Quita.
Awesome. I'm right here. I'm ready. I'm wide open. Boom.
Did you get it?
I missed it usually.
Darn,
I missed
Brian.
it.
All right, let's talk about some of the congressional races that we are following tonight. You heard Malia note that incumbent Congressman Michael McCall, he's got that check mark from the AP. He has won re-election, but we are still waiting for the AP to call a lot of these other races, including District 17, which is the incumbent Pete Sessions, has a solid lead as of right now. District 21, I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen this one called yet, Brian.
Yeah, I guess because you've got Kerr County. Is that Kerr County? Yeah, they don't have anything counted yet. I guess it's maybe they have somebody that was voting. They had some, I don't know what's going on, but there's a reason they haven't called that yet because they don't have any votes in those counties yet. But yeah, Chip Roy, the theme of the night for the congressional districts around us is incumbent success.
Absolutely.
You see the eye, you're normally going to see a victory, and that's the case in District 27 and 31, which no big surprise.
Now, you are going to go ahead and see those check marks in these two districts, and that is District 35, Congressman Greg Casar, as well as District 37, longtime Congressman Lloyd Doggett, who, overwhelmingly won his race there. Looking at some of the House districts, it's still early in terms of calling these races. None of these races have been called as of yet, Brian.
No, but a lot of red for Ellen Troxclair, the incumbent, as with Terry Wilson in District 20. Aaron Zwiener, another Democratic district in Hayes County. You can see she's got a significant lead, as does Cheryl Cole, 75% for the incumbent there.
All right, these races really just aren't competitive because of the way the maps are drawn. All right, for our viewers on KVUE Plus, we are going to take a quick break and we're going to get you some election results for you right now.
That's right. We will see you back here in just a few minutes, so stick with us with KVUE.com and KVUE Plus.
Director Ashley Godot with Brian Mays. We are here tracking the numbers. Let's talk about our congressional races, Brian.
We've got a theme developing in Central Texas, a big night for incumbent success. A lot of the incumbents, as we expected, the way these districts are drawn, having big success tonight, including Michael McCall. He's headed back to D.C. You can see the check mark by his name in District 10. A pretty significant victory tonight, more than 75,000 votes ahead of his challenger tonight.
Yeah, this is the only congressional race in our area that the AP has called. However, you will notice sizable leads among all of the incumbents in the rest of our races. Interestingly, of course, when you look at this district with incumbent Congressman Pete Sessions, the part of Travis County where he represents obviously went blue, but the rest of his district is solidly red.
That's a big district, too. It goes all the way over to the border almost through Angelina County and Nacogdoches County.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Looking at District 21, and this is one that has just been called. Whoop. And we actually mentioned this earlier. If you're watching us on KVUE Plus as we're streaming, that we were wondering when they were going to call this race for incumbent Chip Roy. It's been called.
That's right, and you can see that the counties in white have yet to report anything. So it's interesting to me that they're calling races without any votes in those. But Michael Cloud overall, if you want to go back to the totals, you could see the incumbent with a significant lead. Again, this goes along with our theme, incumbent success, and you can see once they won the primary, they were in pretty good shape in the general in these specific districts.
It's all about the lead. The AP is going to call it if the lead is so much so that whoever is trailing cannot win, as is the case right in Congressional District 31 with Judge Carter going back to Washington, D.C.
That's right, and it's the same for the Democratic districts now. Greg Casar, a significant lead there. Lloyd Doggett also, they've called that one as well.
All right, so for our TV viewers, you can continue to stream us live on KVUE Plus. We're going to continue with that and get you back to the elections. All right, thank you for our streaming audience who's been sticking with us. Indeed it is. So we were just noting that some of those congressional races have been called. Let's continue to look at some of our House district races. Again, these are the races that the real race, if you will, was in the primary, because while they have not been called, there are sizable leads for the incumbents in these races, Brian.
And this is why every few years when they redistrict, you see these debates come about. Right. Because these districts are specifically drawn to have red on one and blue on another. There's really not a fight when the general comes around. The fight happens in districts like 17 during the primaries. Right. Once you win the primary, like Stan Gertis did back in May, then you can already see yourself having some pretty good success when you get into the general.
Calling it packing packing these districts. And one of the things that you're going to see, we're showing you some of the races here, but one of the races that you're not going to see us talk about, or several of the races that you're not going to see us talk about, because in Travis County, for instance, the state representatives are Democrats who were unchallenged. State Representative Donna Howard, some of these other districts that State Senator Sarah Eckhart, these are people who are strong Democratic districts, and so they didn't even draw challengers.
That's right. Again, an incumbent leader there. I think we're going to hear from Ted Cruz. Let's look at the Senate race real quick, if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
This is the Senate race, and I believe we have a live picture where we are expecting Senator Cruz to take the stage soon. If we're looking at the lead that he has as of right now, what the AP is reporting that he is leading Congressman Colin Allred 53% to 45%, with 65% of precincts reporting. Now, one thing that's interesting to note that Brian so correctly pointed out earlier is that there are about 9 million early votes, according to the Texas Secretary of State's office, and we have not even gotten to 9 million on this board yet. We're still waiting, and there's still a lot of white. So it will be interesting to see what the senator is going to say. But I do think, Brian, that he is feeling good tonight based on these numbers, right? Based on the fact that former President Donald Trump swept Texas, as we, sort of expected him to do. Texas is a red state, and he won by an even larger margin than he did in 2020. And so I think that is why the senator is feeling very, very confident going into tonight right now.
And I think he knows the counties that are outstanding, the ones you see in white that have yet to report anything other than these right along the border, which were majority blue back in 2018 when Senator Cruz faced off against Beto O'Rourke. I think Senator Cruz understands now. Let's take a look back at 18. The red is coming in where he thought he would be red. And then you've got a county like Tarrant County, the Fort Worth area, that was blue 6 years ago.
Right.
It is now not blue.
Right.
So I think the senator and his team understand kind of the way this is going. At least they have an idea of the success that they're able to garner so far and are optimistic about what they don't. It is interesting, though, the largest three Central Texas counties, Williamson, Travis, and Hays, voted again on the side of Colin Allred as they did back in 2018. You can see they were blue then, they're blue now. Not a huge surprise, I guess, given the way Austin's kind of spread out, but you can see three good counties for the Democrats.
But I do think one thing that is surprising is Williamson County. When we hit the presidential election, Williamson County went for Trump this election cycle, and yet Colin Allred won Williamson County. And so that is a very interesting, or is winning Williamson County as of right now. 4,000 votes,
Close.
right?
It's
It
close.
is very close. Yeah. But compared to the presidential, where you see, my goodness, former President Trump won by even less than Colin Allred won. So, I mean, those numbers, if you think about that for a moment, right? So he won, or is winning, because it's not over yet.
Yeah.
So he's winning by about 3,300 votes, whereas Colin Allred is winning by 4,200 votes in Williamson County. So that's very interesting. But as you're pointing out totals,
I want to draw your attention to this number. That number, early voting, look at this number. Uh-oh, I missed a zero. 250,488 early votes.
Right.
That's not counting today's votes.
Right.
So we're almost
So we're only
to
at
the total.
8,000. Yeah, I mean, that's very, well, you said 250, and we're already at 258.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. But that also says that a lot of people got out and voted early.
Yeah.
And maybe they voted early and then sat at home today.
That's true. That's true.
That is what I think is going to be interesting to see, is how many people voted total throughout
Once all the numbers come in, we're still watching a lot of those numbers come in. But again, Senator Cruz I would assume, feeling pretty good about how things stand right now statewide as you look at the entire state of Texas.
Right.
The red filling in the Panhandle, no huge surprise there. The red filling in East Texas, no big surprise there. You can see the cities, Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. There's some blue in there.
Right, because even if Colin Allred is able to win the border, it's not enough. It's not enough. And it's especially not enough after you've lost Tarrant. If you lose Tarrant County, it's just not enough to compete with all the rest of this. And so we're still waiting for him to come out. When he does come out and take the stage, we will let you know. We obviously have a crew on the ground there, and we'll bring you that when it happens.
What's the presidential race looking like right now? Let's go to the electoral map and see where things stand as far as the Associated Press. That's 2020.
So this is currently where we are. That was a scenario map, so we want to make sure we get back to the actual map. And we turned on the lead. And so this gives you some indication. You see some light shading in those numbers. These are the candidates that are leading. So interesting to see that former President Trump is leading in Arizona, leading in Virginia, leading in North Carolina and Georgia. Those are things that are not voting over too well with the Harris campaign tonight.
No, I think any scholar would tell you if the former president takes Wisconsin, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona, I think the former president would feel pretty good about where things stand right now. None of those are called. Only the solid.
We can turn that lead off, and
these
you
are
can see. This is what is actually called as of right now.
So far. So none of those other races are done yet. We're still waiting. These two are a little late. I figured we'd have Virginia and North Carolina by now. We haven't had anything official from the Associated Press just yet. But you can tell the blue is where you would expect the blue in the Northeast. Illinois, Chicago, a huge voting area there, of course. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, the swing states.
Those swing, and we
taking
didn't,
their time, which we're okay with that.
But we should know, we didn't expect Virginia to be a swing state, actually.
That's true.
So funny thing, if we look back at 2020, Virginia easily went to President Joe Biden. It was a blue state, and we anticipated that it would. A lot of people anticipated that it would be blue again tonight. But again, when we go to 2024 and we put on this lead, you can see not so much. And you want to look at the numbers? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I want to go. I want to play a little bit. Let's go to A.
Brian loves to play. Let's go to B. We haven't played with B yet.
Let's go to B.
This is a scenario. This is a scenario only.
But what we were talking about is all those swing states. So let's just say for the scenario that Trump wins Virginia, Georgia, and Arizona. Look at where you're standing.
Yeah, it's not
clearly enough for him to win the presidency. And that's not counting Pennsylvania, which we don't know yet, which is huge. But if the former president wins all of those swing states, then this election is going to go to him. But we still don't know.
If Harris is able to pull out Virginia,
that's a huge difference.
keep Pennsylvania, then it makes a big difference. But we just don't know.
We're speculating.
As of yet. We like to speculate, but let's just take a look at where those numbers lie as of right now. I mean, look at this. You tell me every vote doesn't matter when you're only about 40.
That's 34%. That's a significant number of votes too. That's Arizona. He leads in Georgia with 81% of the vote. Of course, he lost Georgia in 2020. Michigan goes to the vice president with 17% of the vote. Again, a very slim margin. Nevada, nothing reporting yet. North Carolina is a big one. Pennsylvania is a big one. Oh, he's got the lead in Pennsylvania now. Look at that.
Indeed, he does. We do want to get to the Senator Ted Cruz's party. We can see that a number of lawmakers have taken the stage. A number of his supporters have taken the stage right now ahead of him, getting ready to come on stage. We're hearing any moment now.
I hear AC/DC is what I hear, and I'm liking it. I like AC/DC. I got to tell you, though, this is a big difference than what we saw earlier.
Right.
The vice president had a 200,000 vote lead
in Pennsylvania.
That has now gone red with almost 50% of the vote. North Carolina, that's a significant lead for the former president. So it's looking like he's done a really good job on the
that his message is seemingly resonating with voters there. Are you listening to the music?
Well,
Are you
Queen was waving at me like she was hailing a cab, and I didn't know what we were missing.
No, he's not up there
yet. That is
yet.
not Ted Cruz there. Definitely not Ted Cruz. But again, a big turnout for the senator. Of course, this would be his third time winning a Senate seat here in the state of Texas. Of course, those terms are 6 years. Colin Allred was the latest Democrat to try to break that 30-year string of not having a Democrat win a statewide elected office. It appears at this point he's having trouble catching up in the key districts that we talked about, Tarrant County and some other big districts or counties where Colin Allred is trailing Ted Cruz statewide significantly at this hour.
Right, and if we go back to that previous election in 2018, this was the closest that a Democrat has gotten, right, was when Congressman Beto O'Rourke challenged Cruz, and he lost by just, about 215,000 votes is what that he lost. That you can see that number right here. That was what he lost that race by.
What was the total number of votes again? 8.3. So yeah, we've already passed that this year with not even 70% of the votes.
Right,
so.
we're still waiting to your point, and I keep going back to this. The total number of early votes, right, was more. It was about 9 million. So we're still waiting for some of those early votes to come in. But it's just a matter of, even if they come in, what are the white sections? Those are the sections that you're going to look for on this map. How are they going to change?
And again, we're not talking a lot about the local districts, congressional districts, state house districts, because quite frankly, most of them are pretty significant leads for the incumbents. There was one, let's go back to, was it 20? House district, Davila's district?
Yes, 52.
52, excuse me. That was the closest one, and that lead is still about 10,000 votes with about 80% reporting. So Caroline Harris, Davila was, let's see, 2 years ago. Yeah. So it's not far off from where it was 2 years ago.
It's it's not.
Almost, it's exactly the same. Oh,
Well, yeah,
no,
it's just
55-26.
slightly different. But again, this was the closest race.
This is the closest
that we were going to see in our district. The other race that is interesting in our area is the race for Andrew. I'm not hitting the right button.
We'll look at all of them.
Not hitting.
All the incumbents.
What is wrong with me?
I think you're looking for
There we
53,
go.
yeah.
There we go. I was going up instead of
okay.
down. It's been a long night, guys. And that's because we're getting a new representative there. We're hearing that Senator Ted Cruz is walking out. There he is, taking the stage with his daughters there. And so we're getting ready to hear from him. He is shaking the hands of several people, several supporters from the Houston area and nearby. We see.
Is that John Whitmire back there? Can't tell, no?
No, I don't think we would see Whitmire.
That's a good point.
With Senator Cruz.
I guess that wouldn't be him.
No, but
on stage
let's say
in Houston with Senator Cruz.
Lois Colhorst is there.
Looked like him a
I
little
believe
bit.
I saw State Senator Drew Springer there. We're going to take a listen in to Senator Cruz now.
God be the glory. Tonight is an incredible night. A huge victory here in Texas. Right now, we're up by 8 points at over 600,000 votes. And they're still counting votes. It also looks very likely that we're going to have a Republican Senate next year. And I believe, and I hope and pray, that Donald Trump will be reelected as President of the United States. I want to say thank you, number one, to my extraordinary wife, Heidi, my best friend in the world. Such an amazing partner on this magic carpet ride of life. And I want to say thank you to our two beautiful and amazing girls, Caroline and Catherine. You know, politics at times exacts a price on the family. And I want to say I am so grateful for their love and support, and you guys are amazing. Thank you. I also want to give a special shout out to Alexis Nungary. Alexis, thank you for your incredible courage speaking out for your precious Jocelyn, and your courage has made such a profound difference in this nation. We're going to. I also want to thank all the Democrats across Texas who crossed over and supported my campaign. Including especially Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg. Who has stood strong for prosecuting violent criminals. And I want to thank every Texan across our great state who has stood with us in this fight, who worked and who fought for Texas. I want to congratulate Colin Allred on a hard-fought campaign. And I want to say to all of those who didn't support me, you have my word that I will fight for you, for your jobs, for your safety, and for your constitutional rights. But tonight, the people of Texas have spoken. And their message rings clear as a bell across our great state. Texas will remain Texas.
And you are hearing from...
You know, the media were ready to write off Texas.
And you are hearing from Ted Cruz tonight. He is claiming victory in his Senate race. The votes are still being counted, but he says the people of Texas have spoken. In his victory speech, he thanked God. He thanked his supporters. He also said thank you to his opponent, Colin Allred, for a hard-fought race. Now, we do want to go now to our own Darenisha Heron. She joins us now from Congressman Colin Allred's watch party in Dallas, and he's the Democrat that's still trying to unseat Senator Ted Cruz. Darenisha, what's the feeling out there?
Quita, here in Dallas, Colin Allred's supporters are feeling optimistic. One supporter just got on stage and said, look, some of those blue areas still have numbers and votes that are rolling in. And they said, we're not out of this mix yet, so keep your hope up. And that's exactly what they're doing. I want you to see there's a lot more supporters here than it was when I last spoke to you all. I will say, though, people are quiet. It's not a lot of clapping going on. It's not a lot of cheering going on. I think everyone here, they're anxious and they're patiently waiting to see if the percentages will change to go on the side of Colin Allred. We were told that Colin will be here they didn't say a time, but they said he'll be here shortly. So we do expect him to speak eventually. And of course, when we get that update, we'll bring it to you. Quita?
All right, our Darenisha Heron live at Colin Allred's party. And Ashley and Brian back with us. It looks like we are going to wrap things up for right now, I believe.
We are. Senator Ted Cruz claiming victory. The AP hasn't claimed victory for him yet. They're still looking at this race with 53% to 44%. But again, in terms of what it would take for the congressman to be victorious in this race, it would be hard to do at this point.
He's got a bigger lead now than he had at the end of the race in 2018 against Beto O'Rourke, which is, I'm sure, why his people think that with the vote outstanding in a lot of these smaller counties in West Texas and then, of course, along the border, Senator Cruz and his people obviously think they've got what they need with more than 4.6 million votes to maintain that seat again and head back to Washington for 6 more years.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break for our streaming audience, but you're going to see election results rolling on. So just stay tuned to KVUE Plus. We will be back with you in just a minute.
You've been watching ABC's election coverage, and here is a look at your local races with KVUE. Hi there, everybody. You're watching KVUE News, and we are tracking results from the top to the bottom of the ballot. We have been all night. Brian and Ashley are here. Let me go to the mayor's race before we toss it over to them very quickly. And incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson has 4 candidates. Let's see the results here. Still at 51% to the other 4 candidates. And again, a commanding lead. The number hasn't changed for most of the evening because, of course, they're still counting the early voting ballots, mail-in ballots, and they have more votes from the thousands that were cast today to count. But right now, incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson in the lead. Ashley and Brian, throwing it to you.
And that means if he stays there, that means no runoff.
If he stays there, there's no runoff. 51% is what you need in order to avoid a runoff and win. So right now, it's looking good for the mayor, but he's feeling pretty good because those are sizable differences in those 19.
You know who else is feeling pretty good? Just about every incumbent.
Just about every incumbent in the state of Texas, unless you're on the border in one of those congressional districts that are up for play. But if you're in Central Texas and you're an incumbent, you're having a really good night tonight. Let's look at some of our House district races, starting with House District 17.
That's right. Stan Gertis, the incumbent, nearly 70% of the vote so far. Looks like he's got a sizable lead there. In District 19, you can see another big lead for the incumbent.
Indeed, the AP is calling this race for Ellen Troxclair, former Austin City Council member, with just solid red across the board in her district. Going to House District 20, a little bit closer.
A little bit closer, under 60% for the incumbent, Terry Wilson. You can see still about 20% of the vote remaining, but with 93,000 votes in, a 17,000, almost 18,000 vote lead. Terry Wilson, the incumbent, feeling pretty good about things right now in Williamson County.
If we look at House District 45, this is another district where the incumbent is faring well on the other side of the aisle. State Representative Erin Zwiener doing well with about 57% of the vote right now.
That's down in Hayes County. She's had that seat for a while. Looks like she will be maintaining her spot there in the Texas State Legislature, as will Cheryl Cole, another incumbent in District 46, with a significant lead, not called yet, but a significant lead in District 46.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to make up, right, a 33, almost 34,000 vote lead. If we go over to House District 47, again, very similar, with State Representative Vicki Goodwin really carrying her district strongly.
Out to the west in Bee Cave, you can see Vicki Goodwin, the 61.2% of the vote in District 47. It looks like she's going to have another incumbent successful night tonight.
This was the closest race that we were watching, and that is District 52 with Caroline Harris Davila. But she is with a solid lead as of right now, 55.8% of the vote.
And in District 53, we don't have an incumbent because this was Murr's seat. You remember Murr from the trial of the Attorney General. He became out of favor with a lot of the Republicans in the state, decided not to run. So this is a new representative, again, a Republican, Wes Verdel, with the lead right now.
But former Representative Andrew Murray, still the rep right now, he won this seat. So it looks like it's going to stay red. All right, ABC's election night coverage is going to resume in just a moment, and we'll have much more coverage for you on our local races at KVUE News at 10 and on KVUE Plus.
Have a great night, everybody.
I didn't expect to be that famous. I love these guys. They're friends for life.